ahead, Sam.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition here of the Washington Football Maniacs YouTube channel here. I am here with my best bud here, Brandon Scott, who has taken part in training camp. No, he didn't actually suit up, but he got to be out there taking in all of the sights and the events, and he's going to tell us who he thought kind of stood out on both the offensive and defensive side. Plus, we'll actually touch a little bit upon a certain petition that is rolling out there on a certain name. We will get to that, but you're going to want to watch the entire video and stick around for that. And folks, if you're enjoying this channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you're enjoying the content, like it, share it with your buddies, and give us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. So, Brandon, let's get started into this, buddy. You were at training camp the other day. It was really cold out there, wasn't it? You had to take like a couple of jackets with you. It was only like 100 degrees out there.
Yeah, I think the highest was 102, so it was definitely a scorcher.
Oh. No, thank you. I love summer, but I love summer when it's like 80 to 85 degrees. That's my limit. You know, when it reaches triple, I'm out. Or I'm back in, I should say. So, but Brandon, let's start with the offense. Now, we've heard a lot about the defense, and I did read one tweet. It was from one of the beat reporters, and we will get to the offense, but it was if I can find the tweet, I will see if I could try to post it. But the tweet for offense just said "woof." It's bad. But so, well, okay. Let's get started on the offense. So we know that the defense is right now, they're probably a little bit ahead because a lot of those guys, you know, they've had the advantage of having been under Jack Del Rio for about 4 years now. So this is the first year under Eric Bieniemy for the offense. But certainly there's bound to have been some guys who have stood out to you. Who stood out on offense?
Oh, that's a good question, man. With this being officially the first week of training camp for the Washington Commanders, three main people kind of stood out from when I was there, and just from the chatter from the first week of the training camp, man. One, Sam Howell. Sam Howell, he really exhibited his arm, man. He really exhibited leadership. Obviously, chemistry is going to come along. He's going to form that chemistry with Scary Terry, with Curtis Samuel, with Jahan Dotson, and the rest of the weapons on offense. But even the day I was there, his arm, man, he's got an arm on him. Let me tell you, that is the biggest thing I saw from him, is that he has a really powerful, accurate arm. So that was one part of what kind of stood out to me from Sam Howell. But like I said, the leadership, he's taking, you took charge of the huddle. You see a lot of leadership in him, which is big because, again, he only has one career start, and he's coming in here. He's relatively still a rookie, but early on, you've heard a lot of good things about him as far as leadership, taking charge. So that says a lot about him, especially when you deal with a veteran entourage on offense. Scary Terry's been, I think that Terry McLaurin is the only guy who has officially been a Redskin. He's been on the Washington football team, and he's a Washington Commander because he was actually drafted when we were still the Redskins. So he's been here all three phases. So, so when a leader like a captain like Terry McLaurin is saying a lot about Sam Howell's leadership, that says a lot. Number two, man, Brian Robinson. He is looking really, really good in training camp. He's coming in, he's the lead back. Antonio Gibson is more like, Swiss Army knife. He's gonna and it's gonna be interesting to see how they utilize him, especially when you have a similar player in Curtis Samuel, who, I get it, Antonio Gibson is a running back, but going back to Memphis, he has more experience at wide receiver in the long haul. So it's gonna be interesting how to utilize him. But getting back to Brian Robinson, he's the guy. He is the lead back this year. There's a lot of anticipation to see, if he could be 1,000-yard back. Last year, he, lowering the shoulder pads, being a bulldozer. He's looking more agile. I think that's the biggest thing is he's not so much a guy that's going to, purely just run between the tackles or between the guards, but he's going to be a guy who can bounce to the outside. And he looks, man, I'm trying to tell you, he looks limber, man. He looks like he's got a little speed to him. So a lot of people in the organization are very, very impressed with Brian Robinson. Number 3, Eric Bieniemy. He's taking charge. He's really, man, it's incredible to watch him just hold these guys to a really high standard. I mean, he's on people, he's getting on people. Hurry up, he really solidified himself as the offensive coordinator and really took charge. And you didn't see that from Scott Turner, man. Scott Turner was just so relaxed. He was so predictable. He was just stagnant. You don't see that with Eric Bieniemy, man. He really is going to turn his offense into a sophisticated monster, man. I'm trying to tell you. So on the offensive side, man, those are 3 guys that really stood out to me. Obviously, Sam Howell, the day I was there Fridays, which is day 3. So he did throw a pick to Cam Curl, and then people started saying, pay the guy, talking about Cam Curl. So that's a whole nother conversation from when we talk about defense. But he's had his ups and downs, but I'm very intrigued about what Sam Howell could do going into the regular season.
And we also mentioned this in our last video, and folks, a lot of you did not watch that video. You're going to want to go back and watch it. We touched upon this, that there's been some chemistry developed between Sam Howell and Diami Brown. Why not? Because their history goes back to college. Now, I improperly said in that video back to their days at Duke, and I should have been shot because it was their days back at UNC. I mean, that is probably one of the sins of all sins that I committed there. But despite that, I felt that it was, I almost expected there to be some sort of, pick up where we left off from college for Diami Brown and Sam Howell. But it's good to hear that there's some chemistry also being developed with Sam Howell and, of course, Terry McLaurin. You got to have chemistry between those 2 guys, your number 1 receiver, and hopefully guys like Jahan Dotson as well, who I feel like he's going to be our 1B guy. And I'm excited to hear about, let's talk about Sam Howell's arm. And, we saw a little bit of that last year in that last game. He has a fantastic arm. And, maybe it's because that we saw Taylor Heineke throw so much that we've forgotten what a fantastic arm looks like. But he does. He's got a fantastic arm, and he's also got some wheels on him as well. So he knows when to scramble and to run, and he can be just as deadly on his feet as he can, throwing the football. So he threw some picks, and we're going to get to that because we're going to segue into the defense now. It seems like the defense has been very excited. And they have had a tremendous training camp so far. Brandon, what did you see in terms of the defense this past week?
Oh, another good question. Before I talk about defense, I'm gonna real quick get back into another name on offense, Dyami Brown. You just mentioned it. Dyami Brown has been really making some nice catches. So again, it's gonna be interesting to see how his chemistry was saying, how, like you said, going back to UNC, how that blossoms, especially because this is a very pivotal year for him also to try to get some playing time and try to showcase himself because the wide receiver room is getting full. So but getting to the defense, a couple names, I mean, really 3 main names, but one, Emmanuel Forbes. Yesterday he got a pick 6, or would have been a pick 6 if it was real game action. But he a ball hawk. We all know he's a ball hawk, but I was kind of concerned about his weight. He's a little kind of small, but saying that his speed is for real. he could definitely fly. I mean, this guy has blazing speed. He's got great instincts, so that really stood out. His instinct shows why he has 6 pick sixes at Mississippi State. So I was very impressed, and the organization, from what you hear just from going through the grapevines, as far as Commanders land, is that the organization is very, very impressed with Emmanuel Forbes. They, like I said, his ball hawking, but his speed. I believe he got a pick on the ball that was intended to go to Terry McLaurin. So his instinct says it all. It's going to be very interesting to see how this secondary shows up because, going into another name, Cam Curl. The video that you guys saw, people were saying, pay me or pay him, excuse me. Sooner or later, you're going to have to pay him because he, and there's a lot of stats out there. Next video, I'm actually going to do a lot of stats on Cam Curl because, I mean, if you look at the statistical standpoint, he's one of the best defenders in the league as far as secondary. I mean, you got to pay the guy. If you look at that draft class of 2020, man, I mean, that is going to go down as probably one of the best drafts we've had in a while because I forget what round he was in, but, he's a Pro Bowl talent, in my opinion. So, he's going to have a good year. I'm trying to tell you, he's going to have a good year because the speed shows, the instinct shows, and he's ready to hit somebody. Number 3, Chase Young. Ron Rivera's had a lot of good things. Yeah, I know.
I'm excited to hear this.
Oh, absolutely. Ron Rivera's had nothing but good things to say about Chase Young. Coming in here and he's ready to work. This defensive line is going to be a monster. I know last year a lot of people were saying, "Oh, trying to bet on how many sacks you'll get." And I think we got a little hit of ourselves. We were feeling ourselves a little too much. But you haven't heard any of that talk yet. They're coming in. The D line as a whole is coming into training camp focused and ready to roll. This is going to be a scary group, man. I'm telling you, this is going to be a very scary group in the NFC East and just in the NFC period because Chase Young is very, very. He's ready. He's dedicated, man. So I've heard nothing but good things. And from what I saw at training camp, man, the speed is there. You don't see any, the speed is there, the aggressiveness, the agileness is there. So Chase Young, you could see a breakout career year from Chase Young.
And, just again, watching some of the clips and, you talk about Chase Young, just seeing some of the clips of him going through the drills, and he looks very, as you said, the speed is there. He looks very crisp in his movement. He looks very focused, very excited. Um, to me, he's ready to roll. I think he's going to have a Deron Payne-like season, and I'm excited about that. And honestly, I think it's going to be unfair to the offense, the offensive side of the ball facing this defensive line. When you got guys, if you got Chase Young, who's 110%, and then the bookend on the other end, you got Montez Sweat, then you got Deron Payne, John Allen in the middle, and then you got guys rotating in, maybe Fedorian Mathis, guys like that. It's going to be unfair. It really is. I'm not crying about that one bit. That defense is going to be stout. They have the makings of being a top 5 defense. Barring any type of major injuries or anything like that to any key players. But they've also built some pretty good depth across that defense. I would say the only area that kind of concerns me, of course, would be the linebacker position. I still think we're a little weak there, but let's see how things are. Jamie Davis coming back from that knee. Hopefully he is on all cylinders come week 1. But I'm excited about that defense. I really am, and that defense is excited. And looking at the whole again, I wished I was there, and you were there, so you could probably imagine the electrifying just excitement in the air. There were so many people there. The players were so excited. They're jumping up and down, kind of, skipping and stuff onto the field. They were ready to go. The new ownership was there. taking pictures with fans, being so personable. Um, you know, um, and I'm speaking with specifically about Josh Harris. He's been there, and a lot of things that have gotten a lot of old time fans excited is they have mentioned the name Redskins so many times during their um, press conferences and stuff. And of course, we can say, well, of course, it's a hard habit to break. I still call them Redskins from time to time, especially at home. I try to call them Commanders, but here's the funny thing: there was a petition coming out here, Brandon, a petition, and suddenly there's how many? How many people have signed this petition? Do you remember?
I believe last time I saw it, it was actually 28,000 people.
Okay, 28,000 people, almost 30,000 people has signed this petition to have the name of the Washington Commanders changed back to the Washington Redskins. There is, it's not just a partial small group of folks who can't let go of the old name. There's a lot of people out there who wants the old name to come back. And there's a lot of people who seem to think that the new ownership may, in fact, try to bring the old name back. Now, you know what? Let me do my part. Let me do my part. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So,
There we go.
all right. So, all right. Now, of course, the legality is, yeah, they could. I don't think that there's any other trademark on it right now. So, they could try their best to bring the name back. Would it be easy? No, it's not going to be easy, but they could. Um, oh, the only obstacle, well, I won't say the only obstacle, Brandon, but I would say one of the biggest obstacles that I could see bringing the name back would be sponsors. That was one way that really got Dan Snyder to let go of the name was he was bleeding sponsorships and sponsors left, you know, almost overnight. And so it kind of forced them to change the name. What are the odds that they actually could bring back the name? And if so, what would they have to do to be successful in that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. And like I said, I'm trying not to get political, but obviously it has a lot to do with politics. But yeah, the biggest thing, I mean, you got to kind of look at the situation with Dan Snyder and say this, okay? Um, how much did them threatening to pull the sponsorship have more to do with them hating him as a person as opposed to the name Redskins? Because I figured the organization, I've been trying to look it up because I actually signed the petition earlier. I'm be totally honest with you. And there was an organization, a few of them that they're Native American organizations where they said, look, we're behind it. We take pride in that name. So that's the question. With Dan Snyder and that whole situation, was it him caving to wokeism as opposed to them not liking him? That's a popular theory, and that's what I think. Kind of cave to the pressure because I believe personally that especially when the sexual assault accusations came out, that was the opportunity they saw. They're like, hey, we got our avenue. Let's get in there. Let's get this guy out of there. So I think to me I think that was one way to get at him because he was famous for saying that he'll never change the name, and he's just not a popular person. He's as you know, is a well-hated person in this area. So yeah, sponsorship is going to be an obstacle. Now if they try to go back to the name Redskins, because let's be real, most of the fan base wants it to go back. I mean, the name is
Yeah, they
iconic.
do.
I grew up Redskins fan. The logo, everything about it is just this was this is a much loved team, and why this is a different team in my personal experience than other DMV sports teams that I grew up in Loudoun County, Virginia, man. So my first 2 years of high school was in Ashburn, and a lot of our equipment came for the Redskins. If you live in Leesburg, Ashburn, Virginia, Aldi, that part of Loudoun County, chances are you're going to run into a player. And it's just that, and that's why they have that connection to the community, man, because you very well could have a conversation with a player. I mean, like I said, we got equipment for the guys. You see them in the community. It's just, there's always been a special connection between the Washington, D.C. community and the Washington Redskins. So a lot of people want to go back because there's just so much pride, there's so much history, there's so much just about the name, man. It's just it's iconic. But obviously sponsorships are big. Yeah, the owners in the NFL, they're rich, they're millionaires, billionaires, but sponsorship is still something they need. So that is going to be a hurdle. If they because Josh Harris, look, he's from this area, and he said it himself. Look, I grew up a Redskins fan. Magic Johnson's been there's been rumored he's been saying that name. So it's an iconic name. So, but yeah, you're right. The biggest obstacles would be sponsorship. Can we find sponsorships? Will the existing sponsorships really pull, or was that kind of a maneuver to try to get at Dan Snyder? And that's an important question. Would FedEx be, oh no, we're gonna roll. But best believe if you look at, and like I said, we're not getting political. This is just a sports show. But if we look at current events, what's going on with Bud Light, there are companies that fill the void. And that's the thing about capitalism, man. Look, if you can't do it, somebody else will. So, I
That's right.
mean, and real talk, man. If FedEx is not willing to play ball, there's companies out there that are willing to support that because look, you're supporting a fan base that wants the name back, and a happy fan base spends money. I'm just saying, you
Yep.
bring that back, people are going to spend money. People are going to become season ticket holders. People are going to come to the stadium and pay for the prices to watch those games. They're going to buy merchandise. They're going to go to events to support this team. So, me personally, look, I don't, look, like I said, I ain't getting political, but I would like the name back. I went behind, Washington football team, and even then, I was like, dude, we don't even have a freaking name. But then, we get to the Commanders. You know what I mean? We get the Commanders, and I was like, all right, it's kind of generic. It's kind of an arena bowl game, but being a vet, I was like, all right, I can get behind a military theme name. I get it, but it's just you're always gonna, no matter what the name is, it's always gonna be compared to the Redskins. The Redskins are
Yep.
always gonna be in the back of everybody's mind, man, because the rivalry with the Cowboys. There's a reason it was Redskins versus Cowboys. That's why it was that iconic rivalry, man. It's just it fit. I don't, George Patton going against the Cowboy, man. I don't get, Commanders and just doesn't have the same
It's not the
zing to it.
same.
No, it's not the
No.
same. So personally, I would really, really be happy if we went back to the Redskins. But that's the thing. Sponsorship, we're the Commanders now, but that's the thing too, before we roll, man, is that the copyright, that's an issue all in itself with the Commander's name. So
It's true.
where do you go from here? And so that's the thing. I get it. The name was very unpopular, and that's the thing. Most names are kind of cheesy till you start winning. When the Bullets went to the Wizards, everybody's like, there's no magic in DC. What's going on? Why a wizard? But now, everybody's used to it. So there's a lot of weird names out there, like the Packers. If you think about it, yeah, it's synonymous with Green Bay, but then on the outside it's like Packers. But so it's just, I think this family's gonna be happy regardless. But you go back to the Redskins, man, you're gonna totally revitalize the franchise. So I know I'm being Mr. Talking Box here, man, but if there's a chance, roll with it because there is a little bit of friction from ownership that they're leaning that direction a little bit. So we'll see, Greg.
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll have to see. I would love to see it, of course, because I've been a Redskins fan since '81, and I would. I mean, I love the icon. I as far as the name itself, I mean, if it was something that was similar, it doesn't have to be Redskins. If they went back to the Braves, from their first year, I'd be fine with that. If it was Warriors or something, they could simply have some sort of deal worked out with the Native American tribes, some sort of partnership that they could provide some sort of scholarships or something to help those communities, and I think that they would be more than happy to have their community represented Um, and so I'm all for it, certainly, because it was never, the team was never sporting the name to be derogatory toward anybody. Now, you could probably jokingly say, well, their play in the last 20 years was probably been derogatory enough, but or ownership's been derogatory, but I mean, yeah, I definitely would support it 110%. Realistically, I don't know. I would say it's probably a 25% chance that it could happen, but I think at the very least, um, this ownership group is going to do what the fans want them to do. And if the majority of the fans are saying we don't like Commanders, it's going to get changed to something else. And I could see them very well changing it back to at least something that is a little bit more familiar. Maybe bringing the iconic logo back and doing something that that fits, makes everybody, or at least most everybody, somewhat happy. I would be happy with that. If you could at least bring the logo back with a different name, support the Native Americans. I would be down with that. So it'll be interesting. Nothing's going to happen this year. We're still okay. All right. Sorry. Um, we're still the Commanders. So I'm going to support the Commanders. I'm going to support Washington. But after this season, it's definitely on the table, and I could very well see them, uh, you know, talking about wanting to change the name. Now, at that point, they may not be able to change it right away, and they might. Um, the other thing, and I'll hush up about this as well, but um, the length of how long it would take to actually go through another rebranding. A lot of people have talked about that. How long it took this rebranding. Well, you also got to think about this. A lot of that legwork has already been done. Yeah, from the earlier rebranding. So it's not like they got to start back from scratch. There was a lot of names out there that were interesting names, that I think names that um, could have stuck. There were a lot of bad ideas out there as well. So we already know to, discount those. And there was a lot of really good artwork out there too. Much better artwork than this. I'm sorry to the artist with that, but I was able to recreate that on my home computer in 5 minutes. So I'm just saying. Um, yeah, they're the Commanders this year. Next year, could very well see them as the Redskins. All right, folks. I'm hopping off on that. Brandon, you got anything else to say, buddy?
Yeah, before we go, I'm gonna say this, man. Um, I definitely think they need to reach out to a lot of these Native American organizations and really form a relationship. Because here's the thing: I think if there is a combined effort here by the fan base, ownership, and like I said, if you get a lot of these Native American organizations on board, it'll be showing force, and I think that's where you can make an impact. Because then very often, especially in the climate now, like I said, I ain't get political, but in climate now, sometimes there's people that are outraged for you. With the name, there was those, like I said, they took Dan Snyder and his crap as an avenue to kind of come at him. And he caved to it because he really had no leverage. You know what I mean? Like in that
Right.
situation with Dan Snyder, he had no leverage to say, no, I'm not gonna change it because he had so much stuff going on. He was just trying to stay afloat and not get investigated, which ultimately he got investigated. But that's this thing about this. So I think there could be some smoke to that fire, man. I really do. But because there's a lot of people behind it, and like I said, if I was the ownership, I would definitely reach out to a lot of these organizations and say, look, this is what we're trying to do. This is why we're trying to do it. The culture behind the team, the history, but we're trying to also, bring attention to the Native American community because, like I said, there's a lot of the
Yeah.
organizations out there where they're like, look, we feel proud of the name, so that's where I'm at, showing force, really show the woke crowd that look, they had no problem with it. So who really has a problem with it? You know what I mean? So that's what I would do. If you have a combined effort where you have ownership, fan base, and you have Native American organizations behind it, then there's really no leverage for them. So that's kind of where I'm at, man. Is that I'm not trying to get political, but in the same token, man, is that like I said before, when people are happy, they spend money. People will, you will
Yes.
bring back a lot of fans by bringing back the Redskins. Now, I'm with you. I believe there's a 25% chance. I think that you have right now, as we stand pat right now, there's more of a chance staying Commanders than it is switching to Redskins. But if there's an avenue to do it, you got to take that chance. So, I'm gonna go ahead and end there, man. Like I said, as a longtime Redskins fan, um, I'm all for it because, like I said, growing up, that they were watching Redskins. It was just that's what they were, and like I said, I got behind Commanders, and like I said, I definitely thought it was a generic name for like a one of those teams you make up in Madden. You know what I'm saying? But
It was a Walmart name. That's what I called it.
yeah, I mean, it's generic, but like I said, I guess a part of me, the military side of me, the vet in me was like, oh, okay. At least it hasn't, is paying a little respect to the military, which, if you look at an organization, they've always shown a lot of respect to the military community. Every game,
They
man, there's
have.
always, Black Rifle Company does sponsorships. You always have vets in the field, especially around the area. You have Navy, Army, the Pentagon. So this organization has always had a special relationship with the military. So that's why I was kind of behind it. But again, because I'm gonna say this real quick. I actually took my wife out to dinner, man, and I wore an old school Redskins shirt, man, and I had a gentleman that it was actually stationed in I forget where it was. It was out of Charleston, South Carolina. He was the active duty Navy man, and he said, "Look, I kind of wish they'd go back because that's just what I remember them as. That's it's just iconic." So I'm gonna end it there, man. I think if there's a chance, you have to try, but like I said, I wouldn't guarantee anything. I wouldn't hope for anything, but like I said, there's a chance, and definitely go for it. So.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we'll open it up to you guys. You let us know in the comments below. What do you think? There is some smoke to this. This is not just something that Brandon and I have cooked up. I mean, this is actual, there is some smoke to this. And there's definitely some talk about changing the name and rebranding once again. I do believe, at least as far as the rebranding goes after this season, I would say that it's at minimum, it's a 50-50 chance that it is going to happen. It's probably a lot more than that. Going back to Redskins right now, I'm going to say 25% chance, but that could change down the road. But folks, you let me know in the comments what you think. I know there's going to be a lot of people who's going to be saying we're beating a dead horse, probably. But guess what? Dan Snyder's he's no longer here, so it's kind of a new ball game, no pun intended, when it comes to this subject. So there you go. Also, let us know in the comments how we did. What would you like to hear us cover? What were your thoughts on training camp, on offense and defense as well? And again, if you're enjoying this channel, please make sure you subscribe to this channel. When you do, hit that notification bell so you will know when we come out with video releases. Support this channel, support Brandon Scott as well. He's on Twitter. He also co-hosts with the Locked On Wizards with the man, Ed Oliver. He's one of my favorites to watch. He also has his own YouTube channel as well that covers the Commanders. So just support him on that channel as well. Also, you can find the Washington Football Maniacs on Twitter. It is at WF Maniacs. That's what it is. WF Maniacs. We'll leave a link in the description. So come and check us out over there as well. That said, folks, thank you for joining us. We will see you in the next one. Hell to the Washington Commanders, Washington football team, the Redskins, Braves. Just hell. Peace.